Hello and welcome to I Am Geek, and this is episode 120. I'm your host, Ryan, and I'm joined by my brother, Chris, and our good pal, Katrin. How are you guys doing tonight?
Pretty fantastic.
All doing pretty good.
You guys are so excited. I can tell that you're so excited because we have a special, very special guest on tonight, Miss Heather Abels. Hey, Heather, how you doing?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing great. Now, our listeners may be saying, well, who's Heather Abels? Well, you may not know her by name or face, because I didn't know her by face until she popped up on her Skype. But if you've seen a movie in the last, 12 years?
Ever?
Yes, I'm that old, yes.
Back in the 1920s.
Did you have seen, you've seen Heather Abel's work. Now, she is tell me if I'm getting this wrong, you're a senior matte painter and environmental artist?
Yeah, I'm mostly a matte painter.
Matte painter?
I do concept art and illustration, but mostly environmental matte painting.
Cool. So let me list off some of your body of work here, because I've got it all on here. Unless you just went on your IMDb page and just sort of like entered stuff. I mean, I'm pretty sure this is all
No.
you.
In fact, somebody that I don't know added all sorts of like personal information on IMDb, and I remember logging in once and I was like, what? How do they know where I'm from and where I went to school and who did that?
Oh, so you didn't put this in here?
No, I didn't put like it says like I went to school in East Tennessee and I lived in New Zealand and stuff, and I'm like, who's been stalking me?
Oh, that was me. I'm sorry. I got bored one day.
So here you go. You worked on Moana, Zootopia, Deadpool, Big Hero 6, X-Men, Days of Future Past, 300 Rise of Empire, R.I.P.D., which is funny. That was on TV earlier, and I was watching it in the background when I was doing some stuff. Avatar, the Avatar, not the Airbender, but the blue guys. Twilight Saga, New Moon, Land of the Lost, Night in the Museum, Battle at the Smithsonian, Spider-Man 3, which has our favorite dance scene of all time.
No.
Life of Pi, Yogi Bear, the list goes on and on. I just hit sort of the high part. You also did Call of Duty Infinite Warfare. This is amazing. What?
Yeah, that's like the game cinematic stuff. Yeah.
Nice.
I've done some of that stuff.
So you're kind of a big deal.
My husband keeps trying to tell me that, but I'm
you're a big deal.
just like everybody else working on movies. Yeah.
No, he's right. He's right. Big deal.
Because basically, without you, the background scenes would just
Yeah.
be
You
nothing.
remember those memes that were going around a few years ago? It's like your movies without VFX, they'd be just green.
The screen.
Yeah, lots of green.
Because I watched your reel on your website, and it showed like the before and after, and it was freaking amazing. The work that you've done and continue to do.
Could you kind of describe kind of like matte painting exactly, like what for those
who don't know.
Yeah.
So back in the day when sets were too big and as movies started to get grander, they used to paint on glass mats to mat out films and then eventually to extend the sets. So those were set extensions. And that's essentially what we do now, but we do it digitally and we can do it in 3D. So whereas before they were beholden to a locked off camera and a particular lighting scene during a particular time of day, we can now add stuff digitally later. We can match camera moves, add parallax, all sorts of stuff, but we still use, painting techniques in Photoshop and photo bashing and crude geometry. And sometimes we build full 3D assets. So matte painters now are much more generalists, environment generalists with strong painting skills. And we get to create really great backgrounds. Sometimes they're really epic landscapes, and sometimes they're really small changes that you never even know were touched in a film.
So what got you, what was the start? What got you into this? What made you decide this is what I want to do?
I think back in undergrad, I was like, everybody, and I was like, I'm going to be an animator. And then back then we were using 3D Max because unless you were a grad student, you couldn't use Maya in the
That
Maya
is
lab.
True, yeah.
And I remember trying their 3D Max biped animation rig thing. And I said, okay, so I don't want to be an animator. But I was really passionate about the environments that we were making. And I really didn't know what matte painting was back then. I didn't learn more about it until I got one of, those old ILM books, the old ILM visual effects books and stuff.
Mhm.
And I remember getting a Cinefex that broke down the work that Matte World Digital was doing. I think I had one. It was like had the Truman Show in it and probably The Ring, some of the backgrounds that they were doing for The Ring. And I remember just being like, that's amazing. I am good at painting. I can do 3D. I love environments. And then I was like, I'm going to work at Matte World. So I went to grad school and everybody, that first day is like, so where are you from? What do you want to be? And where do you want to work? And I'm like, I'm going to be a matte painter and work at Matte World. And they're like, okay, good luck, honey. And I did.
Yeah.
That was my
showed them.
that was my first job. So that was pretty awesome getting to work with all the people that made the things that inspired me the most to be in the industry.
That's awesome.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So
it's always.
Oh, go ahead.
Sorry.
No, go ahead. No, go ahead.
Okay, fine. No, it's always cool. Like, yeah, like stuff that you grew up with or stuff that you've seen that you love and everything, and you get the opportunity to like have a part in that is always awesome. Because that was the same with me because I loved comic books and everything and cartoons. I grew up loving those. That's kind of what got me into like animation and all that. And then when I finally got to work on that X-Men First Class, I was like, oh, I've made it. Like I was watching X-Men cartoons, and now I'm making an X-Men movie. Like this is so great.
But
Yeah,
you worked on that too, or not the same? You worked on an X-Men, right?
I did. That was First Class, right?
Yeah, I think you.
Oh no, mine was
Days of Future Past.
Yeah, you were on that one because
The
that
one
was
with-
at Rhythm and Hughes, but there wasn't any animation involved for that one. I don't believe.
No, we did work on the same one because you were working on the girl with the
Yes.
diamond girl, Jessica Jones, whatever. Her name was.
Emma Frost.
Emma Frost.
Yeah.
Same thing.
And I did concept for Emma Frost,
Okay.
but I think I didn't matte paint on that. I think I matte painted on the next one.
Yeah, I think you may have been working on the Big Miracle, or
Yes.
when I was doing that with the whales. I think you were working on stuff like that.
Yes. But I do remember you were working on that scene where she was strapped to the bedpost, and I was just like, oh.
Yeah,
I don't remember this. The scene.
Her
with the
character
bedpost.
was about as good as I anticipated.
And that was in the Big Miracle, the bedpost scene. What was?
No.
that was in an X-Men movie for some reason.
I
Which
know.
doesn't make as much sense either. But
You were like my one connection to animation because there's not a lot of there's not a lot of crossover between animation and matte painting, genuinely. So there's never an excuse for a matte painter to just wander up to an animator and be like, hey, we're working on this together. Let's talk or something, so
that
other
is
than
true.
knowing you from undergrad, I was like, you're my one connection.
That's awesome. Yeah, I remember you, because I was at Rhythm first, then you came over, and I didn't know you were coming there, and I think it was for Night at the Museum 2,
Mm-hmm.
and you walked up behind me, and you're like, "Hey," and I kind of froze, my brain froze because it's one of those things like I'm here.
Yeah.
I know you, but you're not here. Why are you-
But here,
Why are
here,
you here, but you're here?
Because I think the last time you saw me was right before I got fired from a movie theater in undergrad.
What?
Yeah,
Oh, that sounds like a story.
Yeah. Oh, it's the only job I ever got fired from. Sort of.
What did you do?
I just quit, or I just left and I never came back. Really, I was like, I went on vacation and I didn't even call them. I just didn't show up, or I don't know. I've never done that before.
Well, don't feel bad about doing it for that.
No, I didn't. That's how much I respected them.
Yeah. Yeah, we left there too, so it's fine.
Sounds funny. So out of your body of work, I'm going to switch gears a little bit. But you guys can tell stories. You can keep telling stories.
Yeah.
Do you have a favorite? Do you have a least favorite?
Well,
Tell us the dirt.
enough time passes that the least favorite ones just sort of fade away.
Yeah.
It's hard to say. I think the ones where you get to control a lot of the screen space, or the ones that are technically challenging. And I would say that I'm never super proud of what I've done immediately after I've done it. It's not until time has passed and it's finally in theaters or something that you're like, oh, okay, that's not so terrible. That doesn't suck. And so there's just some films that were more challenging. Life of Pi had a couple of very challenging technical shots, but mostly epic skies, and in figuring out the workflow between all the departments that needed to utilize the skies and a new color pipeline so that lighting could use them as HDRIs to light the oceans. That one I'm proud of because it was like really integrating the matte painting department into the rest of the company so that our assets could be utilized. Whereas most of the time matte painting is kind of their own secret black box. It's like outside of what everybody else does. And you just like take it and love it. You like, don't ask questions. Here's your matte painting, like just take it and use it. But that was the first time that we were able to like hand assets off for integrated lighting that were HDRI compliant with overbrights for lighting and stuff. And so technically that one felt like a good achievement for me.
So you said Life of Pi. I was looking at your reel and it has like basically a pool scene.
Yeah, the Piscine shot.
Yes.
Yeah. So basically when they present that to you, say, here's your scene, how much information do they tell you about what it's supposed to look like to fill in the space? Because basically the shot is a pool with a blue wall around it, and then in the background is just trees and construction stuff. And
well, we had the plate, so you probably saw the frame of the footage and the blue screen. But the Piscine was an actual location that still stands. At the time, it was like full of graffiti, and it had been used as like a skate park and stuff. And it has since been revitalized and refinished, not completely to its old standard, but there were photographs of it from back then.
Okay.
So we were sort of taking the best of the photographs, and one of the things I love to do in matte painting is to research the environment. So period films and things like that are especially fun because you can try to surf on the internet for a while and like look for the best reference. And then we had sort of somebody built a sort of rough model, and I took that and I broke it apart and I changed it and painted a bunch of stuff from that. And then we ended up adapting it and changing it. And then, like any movie, they want to see all 15 landmarks in one scene. So what you see in the background, like the Eiffel Tower and stuff, is not realistic to life, but that's, it's like when they want the Golden Gate Bridge and the Bay Bridge and the Pyramid Building in every San Francisco shot.
So that's cool. So they give you a bunch of different things, and they give you sort of liberty to make this, but we want all this stuff in there, and then you sort of get you're let go to basically do it, and then they tell you to change stuff or leave it the same. And
sometimes you don't have anything to go off of for matte paintings other than maybe a light direction or some tracking geo or something like that. Sometimes they're very specific. So like that one is very specific. We want the Piscine Molitor back there. Here's what it looked like historically, but we don't want this one wall. That's it, And so the rest of it, the lighting scheme, the colors, how many doors there are, you generally have a lot of freedom. And I think that's what is so sexy about matte painting is that you really do get a lot of screen real estate. So, and I think it's a lot like animation because animation is very much a big performance. It's a big part of the scene, so matte painting might be in the background, but it is a lot of canvas. It's a lot of screen real estate that you are directly creating.
Yeah.
And that doesn't usually change all that much after it leaves your hands.
That's cool.
So I think that's the thrilling part.
Yeah.
Like you're kind of playing cinematographer
Yeah.
for a couple shots.
Yeah, that's cool.
I think we have the title of this episode, Matte Painting is Sexy.
Matte painting is sexy.
With Heather Abels.
I should lower my voice a couple of octaves.
Get that smokiness going. Would be
Yeah.
Yeah.
My colds from last week would have worked really well.
good.
So it
Yeah,
is
here we are
yeah.
again.
It is October now, and so this is when we celebrate Hallow Geek, which is our version of Halloween, I guess, because we do it all month long. Because we're geeks and I don't know, we like Halloween. Anyways, so when Chris said that you were coming on and he said you worked on this one project we're about to talk about, I was like, this is going to fit perfectly in with the beginning of our Hallow Geek month. You worked on the new firework spectacular at Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween. I think it's called Not So Spooky Spectacular or something. So this is the projection show on the castle.
The new projection show that just came out this year for, is it MGM Castle?
Magic Kingdom.
Is that right? Were you there? Did you see it?
I was there and it was going on, but I didn't get to see it because you have to buy a special ticket to go see it. So I watched the video on YouTube.
Well, that's how I've seen it.
That's how we've all seen it, I think.
Yeah.
I've done a lot of the castle projection shows over the last 3.5, 4 years, and they're so much fun. On that one, I got to do all the Disney villains.
Oh, cool.
They had these madhouse, like these funhouse, madhouse like versions of the castle, where like different pieces spin, and they've got the heads that come up, and so I got to paint all of those. I did textures for the bits that were spinning, and I did matte painting that was being projected for the rest. And it's just so much fun to take your favorite movies. I'm such a big Disney animation fan, or animation in general, but like to take your favorite things and revisit them. It's also very nerve-wracking because in those versions they asked for sort of like circus style freak show posters of the sidekicks and the villains. Or first it was just the villains, and so I got to design the sidekick posters, and they liked them so much that they asked for the main characters. But then I found out that they were sending them to Disney Animation, where I was working for the summer while I was finishing this up, and they were being reviewed by the classical animators that like actually worked on some of these films.
Wow.
And they were like doing drawovers, or changing my poses slightly and stuff, and I was like, this is amazing.
That's really cool.
That is cool.
So like Eric Goldberg and people
well,
like that,
I can't be certain it was him. It's a 50-50 chance that it was him.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So is that different working on something that's basically a show in real life versus a movie? Like, is how you do the matte painting, is it different when it's a projection show, or how does that work?
The castle shows are they're really fun because they're a lot more stylized and cartoony, but also I'm not projecting them in 3D. I'm creating a bunch of layers that I know are going to be used in animation, and then it goes to the animator and they put it all together and they use all the pieces that I've created to add movement. So I've done like a bunch of the different shows there. And the same for like the Hollywood Bowl. I've done like the Nightmare Before Christmas one and the Little Mermaid one, and they're so much fun because you get to pull from your classic movies and you get to revisit them and pretend like you were part of the original magic for a moment, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And the scale, like I haven't seen any of the castle shows in person yet, but I have seen a couple of the Hollywood Bowl shows, and seeing something you made that big with that many people live is kind of incredible.
Yeah.
And then to see like write-ups in the paper about, you know, the paintings that you made it's really cool.
And you can really see the reactions from the people. Because you see the crowd, you hear the crowd. And like movies, you may go see a movie and you may hear people every now and then in the audience. But a show like that, you really...
Yeah, unless somebody emails you to be like, hey, I loved your shot, you know. It's not the same as seeing it with like 50,000 people.
That's awesome.
So Disney, because I know the heads of Disney listen to this podcast.
Yes.
You need to get Heather, get her a plane ticket, send her down there to see her shows because she needs to see them
For
live.
sure.
I know. I keep offering to help with the install, but I did it. I was like, hey, does that mean you get to ride the rides when you're doing the install at night? And they're like, no.
No.
And that's why they haven't invited you.
Oh, no. You like show up with your like Mickey ears on. You're like, I'm free if you guys want me to come. They're like,
I can be there today. I mean,
don't you have kids? They'll be fine.
They're fine. Yeah, they went to Disneyland all summer without me. So.
Oh yeah, well they're fine. They're so fine. When you're doing the projection stuff, because I mean it's kind of warped to work on like the castle structure itself.
Mm-hmm.
Like, are you having to, when you're drawing it, are you having to do it in like a warped style so when it's actually projected on, it looks fine, like it looks like it's supposed to be? Or
well, for something like that, and with anything that you were doing in feature film, you know that it's going to project on whatever object, whether it be in like 3D space or on the Disney castle in real life. You know it's being projected from a single projector or a single camera or multiple projectors if you have to cover around certain objects. And so if you're matte painting, you're going to create a template or a canvas for any shot that you're projecting. And so that's true also with, you know, the castle. There's a template that works for their projection setup. And you just match the template.
Awesome.
But it's really fun. I've gotten to go, the company that does them, the really good shows is called Mousetrap, and I've got to visit them in person when I was in LA and stuff, and they got to show me in their secret room where they've got their miniatures to do their tests and stuff, and it is the coolest.
That's awesome.
They are so awesome.
Secret rooms.
Cool.
It is. It's like behind a black velvet curtain, and they're like, come behind our secret curtain. I'm like, yes, okay.
I don't know you, but okay, let's go.
So you got any fun or interesting stories behind the scenes of any of these projects you've worked on that you might want to share?
Fun or behind the scenes? Oh, I don't know. I do know that because we get to cover so much screen real estate, I'm not going to name people or even a film, but we do get an opportunity to like sneak things into paintings. You know,
Oh.
like your name or your friends' names on gravestones, or you know. But a colleague of mine snuck like his silhouette into the side of a mountain as a joke for a rough pass, and the director came in and saw this like prank version and lost, like super uncool, lost it, tried to demand that this guy was fired. And I mean, it was ridiculous because it was clearly like a fake, you know, it was like,
It's a joke.
it was a joke. And yeah, that was like a big deal, but it doesn't mean we still don't try to sneak things in.
Yeah, I've mentioned it on here before, I think. Yeah, that bed frame that you mentioned from X-Men First Class has my initials in it.
I remember that.
Yeah.
I remember.
It's very subtle, but like, because as animators, we don't necessarily get to sneak in like too much stuff like that. It's a little bit harder to do that.
Unless they're like cheerleading, like
yeah, unless yeah. Unless you like or Taylor do like a character that has like a tick or something from someone you know or something like that. But yeah, I was able to do that, and then I was like, that's so much fun.
Now I want to know. I mean, I know you don't have to tell me yes or no, but now I want to know if any of these movies have some secrets in them in the background.
Oh, absolutely. Especially Disney movies. Not just map painters, but all the environment artists get the most awesome opportunities to hide Easter eggs everywhere. We get to like hide assets from other movies and trinkets, and you know, even the that not so scary castle show. I've seen in like blog comments and stuff. I'm like, because I'm like stalking people to see if anybody is looking and if they like the show and stuff. And they were all, some of them were upset that that the devil, you know, the Disney devil from
Hades?
Not Hades. Is it from
from
Fantasia?
Fantasia.
Chernobyl or Chernobog?
Yes.
Chernobog.
They were upset that he wasn't in there, and he is because I snuck him in there. He's at the very tippy top of the castle in like a little mirror. His silhouette and glowing eyes are up there. And so, but people, they haven't seen it. They haven't picked up on that.
Awesome.
So in Zootopia, there's a scene. You probably remember they had the weasel that's selling all the movies, and they had all these movies that look like other movies that were in the you know, that were either made or not made yet. There were some that were, I remember hearing that there were some that weren't even made yet that were sitting on the table, but they were named something different, you know.
It is true. I think there was probably was a Frozen 2 in there or something.
Yeah, I think it was, yeah. There's, in Disney, there's all kinds of stuff, even going back, like, even, it seems like it was probably around, when I first remember seeing something was like Aladdin. When the Sultan is stacking little porcelain animals.
Yeah.
I think, was it Lion King stuff was in that one, or was it a different one?
I think that was it.
Yeah, I think it was like Lion King. Yeah,
I think so.
The stack.
And there's parts with the genie where he like when they're in the Cave of Wonders, and I think that there's parts where he snaps and he's like other characters from other movies, other Disney movies or something. I know because I studied that sequence for another castle show I did. As well as, you know, already having it memorized.
Yeah. And there's also the infamous Little Mermaid castle.
Oh, castle on the cover.
Which I had to reimagine for the Hollywood Bowl show. And there is no way to paint that and have it look wholesome. So like I did a version of it that matched, and we all agreed that couldn't go up on the bowl like that. And so I kind of just kept adding to it, and in some ways and I was making it more detailed, and in some ways it got worse. And so then I had to add a bunch of other stuff to make it better. So it doesn't look anything like the original castle, really, but much more appropriate.
That's so funny. I could see you making it, and then you're looking at it and like, no, that's worse.
I have my husband come in. I'm like, is this as bad as I think it is? He's like, yeah, it's bad. And that's a hard dailies to do because I work remotely now. And so when they're like, hey, how's that castle painting going? And I was like, well, looks a little, we'll say a lot phallic.
We'll just call it what it is.
Yeah, magic.
Magic.
Oh, and it was the Beast that was in Aladdin.
Yeah, it was the Beast.
A stack of things. I just had to correct.
Did you just Google it?
I did. I was like, that doesn't sound right. I got to Google it.
We don't have to remember anything anymore.
Yeah, that's the thing about the podcast. Nobody sees us Googling it. We just go, oh, yes, I remember, blah, 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 blah. People are like, oh, wow, they're so smart.
My husband does remember all that weird trivia stuff. I'm the one that forgets all the names. And
I remember it, but just most of the time I remember it incorrectly. And then I Google.
Then I Google. So, you got something you've been working on that hasn't come out yet. I don't want to.
I'm always working on something that hasn't come out yet.
That's kind of how our job works.
No, I mean that it's sort of a big deal that everybody's even okay, here's the thing. Even grown man on my Facebook. No, it wasn't Facebook. I was at Disney World a couple weeks ago, and I'm going to call him out for this. I ran into some guys from another podcast that we know called Unrelated at Birth, and guy named he's Dave Adams is the name of the guy, and we were standing in line to ride a ride, and I hear this music playing behind me, and I'm like, what in the world is he doing? So I turned, because I was talking to somebody, and I just talk to random strangers in line at Disney, and then I tell them about the podcast, and they're like, oh, that's excellent, because they geek out about stuff like we do. So I was talking to some random stranger about I'm Geek. Maybe he's listening right now. I don't know. And I hear something playing really loud behind me, and I'm like, what in the world? And I turn around, I'm like, what are you doing? He's like, dude, the new Frozen 2 trailer just came out, so I'm watching it. And I'm like, what are you, a 10-year-old girl? And he's like, no, man, it's awesome. So, like, who stands in the line for the Millennium Falcon ride and watches Frozen 2? Dave Adams does. So, you've been working on Frozen 2. Now, you probably can't say much.
I have been working on Frozen 2. And the songs are really, really good. And I'm so glad that they've put that trailer out there because it's been in my head all summer and I can't actually like sing it out loud. And, you know, now I can, at least that one. So I thought the one trailer came out and there wasn't any of the musical numbers in it. And I thought that was very interesting. And my friends kept emailing me and be like, this looks so good. It looks like, you know, Frozen meets Lord of the Rings or something like. And I was like, it's going to be good, but there's going to be songs.
Of course.
But I think it's really, really good. They, of course, were making changes to make it as good as it can be up until the last minute. And my kids can't wait to see it. They got to see a sneak peek this summer during the family picnic at Disney. And they can't wait because my boys got to come to work and have lunch, and they're so excited.
Yeah, my kids love it. They watch it at least once a day. Sometimes my daughter, who's 2, will watch it, and then I'm like, let's go do something. And she calls it Let It Go because she's 2. She goes, let it go. And I'm like, no, we've already let it go. It's gone. And she's like, no, let it go, let it go, let it go. That's what she goes to sleep to, listening to the song. Loves it. So yeah, we will see it. But it's going to be good. It's not going to be like
it's going to be good, and not just for girls. I mean, I have have two boys, 5 and 6.5 now, and they love the original, but they love the original as much as they love all movies. So
Yeah.
it's not like it's their number one ultimate favorite. But I definitely think that this movie is for everybody. Dads too.
Cool. Well, I've gotten Frozen memorized, so
Oh, yeah.
and my son loves the first song. He
Yeah,
he goes
I was
around
gonna
and
say.
sings the first song.
Yeah.
And it's hilarious.
So yeah, my 8-year-old son loves that part too. Like the other day he was actually singing. We haven't watched it in a long time, but he was singing that part, breaking the ice up and stuff. So
Yeah,
it was-
he's
Yeah.
funny. He's like, huh, here we go.
Yeah.
Huh. And I'm like, here we go. It's funny.
That's my kids with Moana. They're
Yeah.
really into Maui. My son, when he was having his, I think, 3rd or 4th birthday party, he wanted not a Moana party, a Maui party.
Eh.
Oh,
There we
Nice.
go.
well, that's all right. I'm a 37-year-old man, and I listen and sing to all the songs.
Yeah. So for the Maui party, did The Rock come to the party?
In tiny figurine form on top of his cake.
Nice. You should have just went out and got a wrestling figure of The Rock and just stuck him up there.
Yeah.
That would've
He
been-
wouldn't have understood.
He's like, that doesn't look like Maui.
I don't understand. That's Maui.
Although they do love The Rock because he's in all these like kid movies or
Yeah.
movies that they love to watch, and they are impressed by his muscle bumps. That's what they call them, Mom.
That's
and so
the new
now
name for
they're
this
constantly,
episode.
like showing me their muscles, and they're like, "Mom, look, my muscle bumps are bigger," and I'm like, "Okay."
My
Sure they
muscle
are.
bumps are bigger.
You should get that checked by the doctor.
Oh man. So can you just go ahead and just tell us the whole plot of Frozen 2? That's fine.
Absolutely, it's gonna take another 2 hours.
Oh, we're
We got
fine.
the time.
Yeah, we got the time.
I'm so excited because everybody that works at Disney, at least in set extension, which is the matte painting department, and in look development where I sat, we always talking about all the fan theories. And so if everybody out there who's got their Disney blogs and their fan theory blogs and stuff thinks that the Disney employees aren't reading them, you're wrong. Because we're always like reading them and laughing and then seeing what we can sneak in, and like everybody adds their own little touch. But yeah, I'm really excited for it to come out. I think everybody's gonna like it a lot. And then some of my friends that work at DreamWorks, they're like, "All right, who's gonna win? The animated film Oscar?" And I was like, "I think Frozen's gonna take it."
Oh yeah.
Because isn't Frozen going to be up against Dragons? Is that right?
Yeah, I think that was.
Yeah, because Dragons released after.
Yeah, I think it did. That sounds right to me.
Would Toy Story be in there as well? I don't know. If
Toy Story 4
That
would
was
be
an
in there.
abomination. I hate it. I'm sorry. That was
Well, you know what's funny is
a franchise killer.
Yeah, I did not.
Oh.
I have not seen Toy Story 4 when it was announced and it came out. I purposely went online and read the whole synopsis or the whole plot of the movie and the ending and everything because I was like, you're not going to trick me again, Pixar. I'm not going to go to a movie theater and cry for like. I mean, you got me
I
Toy
would have been
Story
okay
3.
with that. I didn't even cry. I was just so.
So I didn't
mad.
like
I
it.
don't know.
Yeah. Oh, like just reading it, I was like, this is fan fiction. This is not a Toy Story movie. This is fan fiction.
We got Disney. One of the Disney perks when you're working there is that when movies come out, you get to take your family to see them.
Yeah.
And so Toy Story 4 was one that came out this summer, and the whole family got to go for free and see it on the Disney lot. And I'm just like, it's so bad. Everybody else liked it. The reviews were overwhelmingly positive. It's a well-made film. It's terrible.
Yeah, I haven't seen it either. Just like the first preview that came out just made it look so depressing.
Yeah.
And I was like,
Don't even know if it's depressing.
like,
It's like I could rant about that movie.
Go ahead. It's fine. We got time.
Yeah, it's
I feel like they never know what to do with Buzz ever. and so they've never given him a good character arc. They've tried to teach a really grown-up lesson. I feel like they made a movie for grown-ups and not for kids.
I think that's what Pixar does anymore. They try to like do like a grown-up movie, like because like it was Incredibles 2 for me was just like, hey, when you're gonna be an adult, it's gonna be horrible. You're gonna hate it.
Yeah, I like Incredibles too.
I couldn't get behind Incredibles 2. It was just for me, it was just a remake of the first one.
Toy Story 4 had so many opportunities to be cooler, to be a better story, to grow without killing the franchise or the partnership. Like in the end, they made Woody choose between his best buddy and toy family and the love of his life. And I'm like, that is the worst. And it was so convoluted.
Yeah, I read that and I was like, he wouldn't, like, based off the other movies, he would not have made that choice.
No, but what would have been interesting is that if they had just made him not the favorite, because he has only known, from all we know, he's only known himself as being the lead toy of Andy's room. He was the favorite. And so what if now he has to deal with not being the favorite? That is something everybody can deal with, not being the winner. And him coping with handing over the reins to somebody else. Because anybody who's been a supervisor, heck, if you're the favorite parent one day and the next day you're not the favorite parent, like everybody deals with that sort of thing. But no, they made it, and they set it in the most boring place a kid could ever go into, an antique shop with the creepiest, most boring toy, these weird mannequin, these
ventriloquist dummies.
Dummies, and not just like one, because that's not funny enough. Apparently, they had to make like 5 of them and throw them in there, and it is all so bad.
They plastered those ventriloquist dummies on the monorail at Walt Disney World. And when you're inside the monorail and you see those faces looking back at you, it's like the most terrifying thing in the world. You're like riding the monorail and there's this dead-eyed dummy looking at you, just staring into your soul.
And that should have been like a one-off joke thing, but they made it like a major plot point. Like they're supposed to be like the mafia, the antique shop mafia or something, and it's all so bad. The color palette is boring, and I hate
the daycare, like the daycare mafia they did in the previous one.
He literally gives up his voice box. He
what?
Sacrifices his voice box. Yes.
Oh, gee.
It's like the worst. It's the worst movie. and I think I'm extra passionate about it because Toy Story was the movie that made me want to do movies. Like it was Toy Story and Jurassic Park, and then I don't know if you ever remember seeing like Cinema Secrets with Stan Winston, like late on PBS or something.
Oh, yeah.
Like those 3 things combined were like the reason I wanted to make movies. And then they killed off Woody, basically. They separated Buzz and Woody forever.
There you have it.
Until they do another sequel and they bring them back together.
There's no bringing them back. At least Toy Story 3 was really good and made you cry and sad. This one,
was really good. I've only watched that movie once, though.
The same.
Toy Story 3. I don't know.
We've watched it a few times.
Makes me cry.
I think you're right. I think those Toy Story movies are really geared towards like our age, right? It's the toys we used to play with.
But even as an adult now, when I was a kid, I think like every kid, you imagine your toys come to life when you're asleep. Like that was very real. So when they came out with a movie that did that, it sort of like hit into the heart of every age group, I think, because everybody imagined that.
Yeah.
And now they've lost sight of that, and they're trying to teach very grown-up lessons instead of like bringing out your inner child.
Yeah.
And like that's what drives me crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, my son doesn't care for any of them. Like we're like, let's watch Toy Story. Everybody loves this movie. He doesn't. He just watched one. And we had it on. Like I have a Plex over at my house where we pull all our movies onto it so we can watch them on the TV, and not have to put the DVDs in.
That's what we do.
And I messed up when I ripped it, and it it would go, you got a friend, you got a friend, you got a friend, and it would just keep doing that over and over again because something messed up.
Maybe that's why he doesn't like it, because that's all the movie is.
Yeah. But it's our joke every time we think of that movie. We start singing it that way. But
how old are your kids?
I just have an 8-year-old and
8-year-old. Okay, so he's kind of old enough to be indoctrinated into all your favorite geeky things.
Oh yeah. Well, his favorite movies right now are Ernest movies. We watched Ernest Goes to Camp and some other ones I can't think of right now. But we haven't watched with Halloween. I've got to get Ernest Scared Stupid so he can watch.
Yes,
awesome.
I think that might be my favorite one.
Well, it's really a geek movie, but they're so funny. It's so ridiculous.
You can geek about anything.
That's right.
But yeah, I think that one was my favorite one, and Ernest Goes to Jail.
Yep.
I love that one too. Where he becomes Electro Man.
I have a list of ones that I'm going to get. And I found an eBay listing that has all of these, but it's the Saves Christmas, Goes to Camp, or not Goes to Camp, we have that one, Scared Stupid, and whatever else. But there were like 3 or 4 that were all together. They're not, and he wants to see the Hey Vern stuff because it's on Vudu. Most of them are on Vudu, which you have to pay for them. Some of them are free with commercials, which is fine. That's how we grew up watching them, right? But so he watches those over and over right now. I haven't shown him Goonies yet. We talked about our movies recently.
We started to watch Goonies, but my kids lost interest during some of the bad guy talking bits. But they're starting to get to the age where we can show them more and more stuff. When they were really little, we made them a toddler edit of Jurassic Park. My husband did that, and he just took Jurassic Park, the first one, and he cut it down, and he cut out all the talking bits and the whole Nedry stuff. Don't need it. It's pretty good. It's really good without it. So that whole bit. And then all the dinosaur super violent, eating off the toilet. We cut that out. But so they fell in love with Jurassic Park, and then all of a sudden they figured out how to use the remote, and they're on Netflix, and I'm like, oh, this is the real version. You can't watch this. And they're not fazed by most of that. The thing that gets my oldest, and he's almost 7 now, and this is crazy because he's watched now dinosaur movies. He's watched all the Marvel movies. The thing that upsets him every time, and all you have to do is mention it, is there's a trailer for Wreck-It Ralph 2 where, he breaks the internet, and he's in there and he's feeding the bunny, and he keeps giving the bunny the pancakes, and the bunny's getting bigger and bigger, and then off screen the bunny explodes. Tears, big crocodile tears. The bunny didn't deserve that. Why did he make them eat that? I'm like, wow. He's totally fine with the people getting vaporized, and
he's got a thing for
Captain
pancakes
America,
and bunnies.
but
that's funny.
We watched the Avengers Endgame, the one before the second to last. Yeah.
Infinity War, yeah.
Infinity War. And me and my husband, we're very emotional. Right? We've been invested in these movies a long time, and we're we know it's probably going to resolve and everything, but we're emotional, and we're crying, and we're watching the kids, and it's the second time we've seen it because we had to make sure it was okay for them. And so we're watching them, and we're ready to field questions, and we've set it up, and we've built, and they're just pop up off the couch. They're cool, when's the next one? And I'm don't you want to talk about how Spider-Man just holds?
How do you feel about this?
It'll be fine. And I'm okay, you're handling this too well.
Yeah.
It's Spider-Man. He'll come back. It's Mom, they already have another movie.
I just got back because my kid woke up. When I was in the theater, I had to console complete strangers after that movie. Like, these two ladies that were sitting next to us started crying, and I'm like, they're gonna come back, and they're like, what? And I'm like, yeah, they're all signed on for more movies. They are. I'm like, it's gonna be okay, and they're like, oh, thank you for telling me. We didn't know what we are gonna do. I'm just like, really? Come on.
I think I first saw it. I was on a Disney cruise, and that was one of the movies that was playing. And so I went and watched it with my niece, like late at night. We went like 10 p.m. show on the cruise, and we just kind of like sat there, we're like, what just happened? You know, like just didn't expect it.
That's the best time on a cruise to go watch a movie is the later shows.
Yeah.
I gotta say, on a Disney cruise, it's so nice. They'll do the midnight shows and stuff. Yeah, that's how I saw like Spider-Man: Homecoming and things.
Well, you
it's so good.
Also get to sleep in if you choose.
Yes. Yes, that is nice.
Yeah,
too.
all Chris does on a cruise is watch movies and TV. So tell me what you did on the cruise. They're like, well, we watched this on TV.
We rode on the bus and sight saw. We saw the back of people's heads on this video.
It's good. It's relaxing.
You pay a lot of money to watch TV on a boat.
I love those cruises, so I highly recommend them. I support them in this endeavor.
Well, it's just funny because I'm like, did you see the shows? And he's like, no, we saw those before. We just sort of hung out in the room, watched some TV.
We go to all of the shows.
Yeah,
we go to the parties.
We hang out on deck and
we go to the mojito tastings. My husband's done the whiskey tastings with his dad. Yeah, it's all good.
So back to Frozen 2, I can't believe that Olaf dies. I mean, that's crazy, right? I mean, poor Olaf.
Let it go.
I'm just kidding.
But there is going to be some sad tears over deaths. We'll just say that.
What? You've heard it here first, or you heard it here first, folks.
Well, I think Kristen Bell talked about how, because they asked them what they want to see their character do, like what's important to them to bring to their characters. And I remember reading an article about her saying it was really important for her character to not shy away from, mental health issues like depression or anxiety and stuff, and to like face them head on when things got dark. So I definitely think that Disney probably took some of that and infused it into the movie. Oh, no. Granted, I haven't seen the final cut because the last version I saw still had a bunch of pieces in storyboard form, but it was very good. And I do know that it was so dark. I mean, the version I saw was incredible. It was so good, but it was maybe a little too dark for kids. And so all the adults loved it. And the kids were like, what? And so I think that they've probably hit like the perfect balance now. And I just love movies that aren't so serious that they don't make you laugh, and so that's what I think Frozen 2 is gonna do really well. You're going to feel all the feelings, not just
I don't want to feel all the feelings. They better not hurt my Kristoff. That's all I'm saying. Poor Kristoff.
I like a good mixture. That's why I like the Marvel movies so much, because it's a good mixture. It has your emotion, but then they underline it with comedy, and it kind of
that's a little bit where the Star Trek franchise started to lose me. Is they were really good at first about infusing like humor into like the reboots, and then they had a couple movies that were just so serious, and it took the joy out of watching them.
Well, now Tarantino is going to make the next one, so that should change that.
That should be interesting.
You asked about what some of my favorite movies to work on were.
Yeah.
And Tarantino is one of my good memories. Because I worked on a little bit on Django, on some stuff that was cut from the final film because it was just too graphic for a Tarantino movie.
Yeah, I worked on some of that. Yeah.
Maybe we worked on the same thing.
It may have been. I don't know which.
Was it like abs, like a wound?
It was.
Was it like flesh wounds?
Yeah, it was. Jamie Foxx character was hung upside down, I think.
Yes. Yeah.
And he was getting and Samuel L. Jackson's character was beating him and cutting him with a knife.
Yes.
And I was animating the knife going across his skin.
I was making the flesh wounds.
Oh, nice.
So nothing gives you more eyebrow raises at work than when you've got a beautiful bottom on your screen for most of the day. Because it was it wasn't his, but this is how well I know Jamie Foxx now is I'm watching this and I'm like, this is definitely a stunt bottom. These are definitely stunt abs. These abs don't match this other shot. But yeah, it ended up, at first I was like, how could it be too violent? It's Tarantino. And then when I saw the final movie and where it was supposed to be, I was like, yeah, that was overkill. That was too much. But favorite memories is how he came to Rhythm and Hues, and not a whole lot of directors come to the visual effects houses, and he was so excited by even the first version that he was shown. He had very little notes. He was so excited, and it was so refreshing and honest to see a director that confident in just letting the company and the people make something cool and being impressed by it right away. Whereas more often than not, you see you hear about a bunch of directors that sound very insecure and they're nitpicking and they're not sure. They're not really focused on their story. Mm-hmm. If they're looking at these pixels here and fudging them and so that was just so honestly refreshing and exciting to hear that, I don't know, that nerdy enjoyment of something that you've been making. So that was a good moment. That was a good memory.
That's cool.
Chris, were you there? Did you meet Tarantino?
No, I worked briefly on it. I did just the knife things and then a whip, animated a whip lashing someone.
Did you whip it? Did you whip it good?
Real good.
In the shape.
I almost made that joke.
I'm sorry, I could cut that out if you want to make it.
Back it up.
Take 2.
3, 2, 1. Did you whip it?
So yeah, we stared at the same butt for quite a while.
Did you get as many eyebrow raises as I did?
Yeah, I did.
I would just leave it up on my screen because that's when I started sort of supervising a bunch of different shows and being more in a leadership role. And so I was working on a couple different movies at the same time, but not the quantity of shots that I would get if I was just sticking on one. And so I would have all these meetings for all these other shows, and I would just leave it up on my screen. People were like, and I'm like, I'm sorry, it's art.
It's art. It's artistic. Deal with it.
Just booty cheeks.
Everybody's got them.
Not like these.
These were some superb booty cheeks.
That double earned his money, we'll say that.
Oh, good.
Gym workouts paid for themselves.
Well, is there anything, because we're nearing the hour mark, and we try to keep it an hour, but we usually go over. Is there anything that because we always ask this of our guests, is there anything besides all the stuff that we've talked about, is there anything that you geek out about that you just are in love with, or that's your sort of your passion, or just geeky stuff?
Gosh, it's kind of, I still chase that feeling that I think we all got before we joined the industry when we watched movies. Like, um, I remember watching like the Lord of the Rings trailer in the classroom at ETSU with everybody, and we're all just going frame by frame through it and geeking out and getting goosebumps. And it was that way when we were watching like the original Matrix and stuff. And I think once you've pulled back the curtain, it's so much harder to get that feeling about movies, especially with franchises that keep going and going and going. But I still love that feeling when I can get it watching a trailer or when I go to a movie. So that's kind of my geeky thing is trying to stay passionate about the thing you do so that it's still exciting and that what you do doesn't ruin the thing you love.
That is true. Because the movies are like the ones that suck you in, that like you're not paying attention. Like, oh, that's some nice arcing they're doing with the moves that they're doing and things like that, and kind of studying stuff. You're just kind of sucked into the story, sucked into the feeling, and you're not critiquing.
Yeah, and I think I'm more impressed now by smaller visual effects movies because I don't know, when we were young and growing up, they would have a budget and they'd stick with it and they'd hand over those shots and to a bunch of artists and say, make this, and they would make it as best as they possibly could, and they were in complete control and trust for that. But now everything's become so compartmentalized in the quantity, and there's so much hand-holding and not as much trust, I think, with a lot of departments. And so matte paintings and I think animation still hold on to some of that, creative freedom to create something. And I like the quieter films that don't have, 1,200 VFX shots by 20 different houses. I like the ones that are sort of, you would never know they were there, or the ones that focus more on story and have to stick within a reasonable visual effects budget, or they really only use visual effects to augment an already solid story. Like that's my favorite. When I hear about directors doing that, I get excited.
Yeah.
So what's the last movie that drew you in that you could recommend for people?
I'm going to say Frozen 2 right now because I worked on it and I'm still excited about it. And that is hard to do. If you know, it's hard to work on something and still be really excited about it. Like because there's always stuff going on at work. You always see the versions that weren't good enough to make it in the movie. Like you always see the versions of the story that weren't good yet. And so sometimes it's hard to detach that, but Frozen 2 still looks so good. It looks so exciting. Yeah.
And Kristoff's
I think Deadpool was pretty fun too.
Oh yeah.
One of the paintings I was really excited to do was I got to paint like Mordor for one of the game cinematics. One of the Lord of the Rings game cinematic, and like how much fun is that to go back and
that's awesome,
paint something that was so exciting before you even got to be a matte painter.
Do you remember which game it was, or
Shadows of Mordor.
Shadows of Mordor.
Yeah.
Oh, I have that game. I haven't finished it, so now I know somebody who. I know the person who painted Mordor. I got to go play it now.
You got to get the Mordor.
It might have been in the trailer or in the cinematic. Huh?
I said you don't have to play it. You can watch it.
There we go.
There's probably
in my infinite free time.
I don't have space for it anyways.
I don't even see most of the movies that I've worked on. So you were talking about seeing R.I.P.D. and I was like, that's definitely one that I'm never gonna.
Yeah. Oh, it was just on Sci-Fi when I was doing something else. And
excuses.
No. So it was on, and I was like, wait a second.
I'm judging.
I just read on IMDb that she did that. That's so funny that it's on the TV right now.
Well, my
You
wife
can't-
would be excited about the Twilight movies that you worked
Yeah.
on. That was one of her favorites, or series that she loved.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
But I've been to Portland, Oregon, and there's this area where they filmed a couple of scenes that were in the woods, and that was kind of cool. They have these signs up. It's like, this is where this scene was, and all that from the first movie. And
This
that
is
was
where
nice.
he sparkled.
Yeah.
I love that. I love that
Heather
stuff.
painted all those scenes. It wasn't real life. When you went
There was
there,
some that was real life.
it was just her paintings that they hung in the woods.
She deleted
Those-
all those trees.
Yeah.
and put
Well, the
it
first
in-
one, I think they did film in Portland or something, and then the second one they had to, for budget or whatever, they filmed in
Probably.
like Vancouver
Yeah.
Mhm.
or something, and so we had to paint some stuff,
Yeah. Sure.
just background stuff.
Yeah.
But I do love visiting like the real. I like trying to pretend that like movies are real worlds. Like so.
Yeah.
In that vein, I'm a huge Potterhead, and we got to go to London, and we got to see the
cool.
stage show of Cursed Child, and then we did the Harry Potter studio tour, and then we took the train to Scotland, and we got to see all this stuff. And I'm like, I could totally picture Hagrid's hut over here, and I can picture Hogwarts like behind a magical veil right over there, and in different parts in England, like seeing the buildings that inspired the Viz Dev in the movie, because I work on environments, I know that a lot of time we borrow inspiration from real life things. And so not growing up in England and seeing any of the architecture or any of the buildings or the candy shops or this, like when we got to go and see, like, that's Honeydukes is based off that building. Exact, like it's
that's
not
cool.
totally exact, but it's definitely inspired by that.
Yeah, that's
Or-
awesome. Yeah, when we went to England, we went to the area where it was like modeled after like Diagon Alley. Like Diagon Alley was kind of modeled on that area. Yeah, that was really cool. But we didn't get to see as much of Harry Potter stuff. But my wife was specific that we had to go to where Bridget Jones'
Say Bridget.
I do where this is going.
apartment was.
Yeah.
We had to go where her apartment was to see where that scene took place when they're standing out there and she's not wearing pants and she's kissing him. We had to see that.
I had to see that. I get it. I did not do that. Maybe I need to go back.
We don't blame you.
No, we did do like a bunch of Lord of the Rings tours when we were in New Zealand.
Oh wow.
That's awesome.
But it's funny because they're all real places, but then a lot of them were shot to be pictures. And then it grew up, and the landscape changes. And so you're like, this doesn't look like this should, but yeah. Now I might need to go back to Scotland for Outlander.
Have you been to Universal? Sorry, have you been to Universal Studios to see the Harry
Yes.
Potter?
I haven't been on the new Hagrid ride, but yeah, we're big Universal
That's
Florida
so cool.
fans.
It's like you're walking into Diagon Alley. It's just amazing.
I love it.
Yeah, so cool.
My kids love it. They were so little when we were taking it. We got like an annual pass last year. That they were terrified whenever the dragon on Gringotts would breathe fire. So we got my oldest at the time a wand, and we gave him a magic spell, Aguamente, to put out water or to put out the fire. And so we've got all these amazing videos of him like getting ready and just fiercely casting a spell at this fire-breathing dragon, and it is very real to him.
That's awesome.
It's awesome.
So on the same trip when I went to Portland, we also went to see the Goonies house in Astoria, and that was really cool. And then we went to Cannon Beach where they filmed like the sea stacks, I think is what they call them, the big rocks out there when you see the ship coming in and all that, and it's like super far away from the house. I mean, it wasn't real close. Like they ride their bikes down there, I guess, but in the movie, but. That was really cool to see the house. You can't go up there now, but at the time, this was 4 years ago or so, you could walk up to the house, take pictures and all this, and there's Data's house is right there beside it. I mean, it's
That's cool.
just like the movie. And then, but they have a sign that's like, please donate, and donate money for the house to keep it up, And then the other thing we got to see in Astoria was that was a really cool town because it's like a fishing town, kind of like on the coast right there in Oregon, and was the kindergarten cop school.
Yes. I love that movie. It's so weird what movies I love, but that is one of them that I've watched probably 100 times.
But that was really cool. Just all those things were just all within a couple hours from Portland. We had to drive a bit, and it was funny because it was 90 degrees in Portland, and we go to the coast and it was 65 degrees. It was nice, but
so can you not go up to the Goonies house anymore because they're building a golf course there now?
No idea.
Oh, come on. That's from the movie.
The kids,
is it pirate themed?
Well, if the kids can save it, then it'll
That's
be fine.
so funny. You go, I have no idea. Maybe they are building a golf course.
We just got through watching a show on HGTV where HGTV bought the Brady Bunch house. The actual
saw
house.
that. I did not watch it.
It was actually pretty interesting. Like, I didn't really grow up watching the Brady Bunch. Jeannie watched the Brady Bunch a lot. But it was interesting because the outside, it's the outside of the house that you see from the show. But the inside looks nothing, of course, like what was in the show. And they redid the whole inside to make it just like the show. And it was insane. Like, you talking about how you having to go through like the movies and pick out little things to put in the matte paintings to make them exact or whatever.
Yeah.
That's what they did on the show. They watched like seasons of the Brady Bunch to pick out like, oh, there's these bongos back here in the background. We got to get bongos exactly like that. There's a stuffed giraffe that we got to find somewhere to match it. They actually went and printed like wallpaper and printed sheets and all kinds of stuff like digitally to exactly match what was in the show. It was crazy.
Spoonflower.
Yeah.
You can do everything now. Yeah, that's cool. And my inner geek, I'm not a big Brady Bunch fan, but the inner geek in me loves that whole idea of like recreating the world of your favorite movies and shows and stuff. Like the me that has made like prop replicas for my husband birthday and stuff, like I love that sort of stuff. Like I want to go sleep at Hogwarts or,
I'm sure you can.
Where's the Hogwarts hotel?
You gotta hide. You just go to Universal and hide in the line somewhere and sleep there.
It'll be fun.
Yeah, but they're doing the Star Wars hotel, right? But the prices that they posted are so astronomically high.
Oh gosh, yeah.
I've already got somebody lined up to buy one of my kidneys, so it should work out for me to go there. I want to go. I got to. Oh, it looks so cool. Yeah, I just got back from Galaxy's Edge a couple weeks ago.
Do you like it? It
was amazing. Like, I went in thinking, we'll see. I'm a big Star Wars fan. You can't tell from behind me and stuff.
I can't see your video at all.
Oh, really?
Mm-mm.
Oh, well. You don't even know what I look like then.
No. I assume you look a bit like your brother.
No. I have the booty cheeks of Jamie Foxx, and
we don't see your booty.
Yeah, I'm not sure why you have those on screen. You constantly have those on screen.
I keep them on screen.
Yeah.
Just
he comes up with these weird excuses just to stand up and turn around all the time.
It's my
copper tone.
It's my best asset. So see what I did there? I have long flowing hair, unlike Chris.
No,
I don't. That's weird that my video's not on. Huh. Oh well. Anyways,
we got to go to Galaxy's Edge this summer during the preview and stuff, and all summer long. It was pretty slow, so it was fun. I wasn't as excited about it as you are.
Well, I'm a big Star Wars fan. I got to go build my own lightsaber. So I think that's what put it over the top, that I got to build my own lightsaber. I'd show it to you, but you can't see. So
Yeah, we did not do that.
it was a cool experience.
But I think for me with kids, it was a lot at Disneyland to just walk over there, and there's nothing but shopping and weird food that nobody liked. And the blue milk was fun, but the cantina was amazing.
Yes,
we're not gonna lie about that. The cantina and the shops, they truly are amazing, but it is all just shopping in one ride, and then a big long trek back to the rest of the world. And so I feel like they went wrong with building Star Wars lands, is that it is so detached, whereas Hogwarts, both in LA and in Florida, is still so close to everything else. Like, you can go through there, you feel like you're in nowhere but Hogwarts. They've very thoughtfully, used the castles and the buildings to camouflage the rest of the park. But then you're over by Jurassic Park, and
Yeah. It seamlessly moves.
It's much more seamless, and
well, I think because I went to the one in Florida, so it's not like that. It's basically, it butts up to Muppets and it butts up to Toy Story Land, so it's just like everything's right there.
And
so
isn't Star Tours right at the entrance?
Star Tours is like you go out and there's Muppets, and then after Muppets there's Star Tours.
Okay.
So it's like down a path or whatever. So everything is right there together, but they've camouflaged it where you can't tell that everything's right there together. So I like that. And we stayed on property, and staying on property, they had, my son is playing with change in the background. So if you hear change rattling around, we stayed on property. Yeah, now you hear it. Okay, buddy. Pour it all out. There you go. So we stayed on property, so we had extra magic hours. So I went by myself at 6 a.m. to Galaxy's Edge, which
that's not as crazy as my friends had the early entrance, like during the preview, but it was the 8 to midnight or 9 to midnight slot. We have 2 kids, one who wasn't 5 yet. He was almost 5 and 6.5. So, and we're like, we're going. Because I had the employee pass to get into the park all summer, but at the beginning we were blocked out all summer. And so that was like we thought for a while that was going to be our only chance to get to go see it.
Yeah.
And so we're like, all right, we're going. We had 10 days to condition the kids to be able to function until past midnight, because we definitely kept them in the park that whole time and didn't get back to the car until 1. But yeah, we all got to ride Millennium Falcon like 3 times in a row. Just, we got to go get cocktails at the cantina. My husband, we celebrated his birthday. He got the Rancorn Teeth beer flight.
Gosh, yeah.
And
that's crazy.
Yeah.
I think it's $85 now. They raised the price.
Wait, for what?
The Rancor Tooth thing.
They cost more than that.
No, it's $85.
Well,
in Orlando, it is. It's $85.
I thought it was like. No, that's probably about right. It was like.
It was $75, and they raised it to $85 a couple weeks ago.
I think when we got it, it was still $85. But it was his birthday.
LA pricing.
LA, yeah.
Yeah.
$4,000. But I'm excited to see the new ride, because I think when they open the second ride, it's going to make everything way better in the Star Wars land, Galaxy's Edge. I've heard the new ride is like the ride itself is 15 minutes long.
Wow.
I thought it was longer than that. I thought it was like 20 minutes or something.
Okay, so the ride itself is 15 minutes long, but then the pre-shows make it like 20 minutes long.
Wow.
Whoa.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
So like 5 people can ride it a day?
It'll be like the Hagrid's hut ride, where they can only operate it like half the time because it.
Well,
It's so long that it can't take the.
and you have to get out of the ride too. It's like you get out and go to. There's these different parts to it, from what I understand, and that's where it keeps why it got delayed so much was because it was if one part of it messes up, it just or gets stuck or whatever, it makes it.
The Star Wars one.
Yeah, the new Star Wars one. Yeah, so it's you get out of the vehicle at one part and go to do this thing or whatever, and it's and it's so long, but it's like if it breaks down, then that one part, which that's any ride, if it breaks down, right?
Yeah.
But they were just talking about how it's kind of delicate because of all the moving pieces that it has.
I'm going in January to check it out, so I'm excited.
Speaking of cool things I can't tell you.
Oh no, you could tell us. Go ahead.
Being at Disney, we get all these like cool things. Like they bring all these visitors in for the employees and stuff, and so they brought in an astronaut to get to talk to us about his space flight, and then they brought in some Imagineers to talk about all the latest inventions and cool stuff that they're doing for the theme parks and how it's going to roll out in the next like year to 18 months. And Disney's got some cool stuff cooked up that's going to like change your theme park experience. It's going to be so awesome.
Oh, now I want to know.
Yeah. I can't.
Oh, man.
But it's so cool.
There's a Disney sniper that's trained on her right now.
What's that red dot? Where'd that red dot come from?
I know. But just getting to hear about their creative process for... They just get to like wildly invent things and then see if it might be useful. And then if it is, maybe pursue it some more. And I'm like, it just sounds so cool. And their entire jobs are built on mostly failures. Like if you're just coming up with pie in the sky inventions and crazy things, most of them are going to fail. And I'm just, how cool is that most of what you're doing is going to fail and you're going to have to be okay with that and move on or like iterate it and make it into something that might be cool or what an interesting and unique approach to life. It's very creative and artistic and
So the Imagineers that came in, were any of them like missing a hand, have a scar across their face, anything like that?
They looked like Jack Sparrow.
Because
the guy with the big jangly stuff that
I'm just
hangs
teasing.
off his
No,
because
I'm not telling you anything.
No, I'm just saying because if there was like one of them missing a hand, then that does confirm that they're working on a real life lightsaber and it's going to be coming to the park and we're going to have a real life lightsaber. Right? I mean,
either that or Captain Hook.
Laser sword.
Captain Hook.
Disney will be the people that develop the actual real working lightsaber. And then I don't know what they'll do with it.
Yeah, I still want a wand.
Still want a wand.
Oh, I can get you a wand. Got a tree out front. There's a guy. I saw a video of a guy that he's like, okay, let's figure out how this technology works at the Wizarding World. And so he got some like diodes, for lack of a better word, off of Amazon, and he just taped them onto different things. And so he could do all the spells with like, he taped it on like a carrot stick or something. He's like,
yeah,
here we go. And people are like, how are you doing this? And he's like, it's magic. Because he didn't tell them that he put the diodes on it. He's like, oh yeah, I could do it with anything. He's like doing it with his hand and stuff.
Take apart your old remote.
Why was he carrying around a carrot? Like
I don't know. It was funny.
Why would you not carry? I mean, it's better than I'm doing a spell with a pickle.
He would put something in a trash can, and then like when people start walking over, look stuff, he'd be like, "Huh," and he'd walk over and just grab something out of the trash that already had the diode on it, and just go to the spells, and people are like, "What is going on here?" It was pretty cool. So no need to buy an expensive wand; just buy a little diode.
Oh, we already have several expensive ones. It's too late for us.
Yeah. Well, I have several lightsabers. It was funny. I have them all mounted on my wall. If you could see me, I could show you.
Oh, made there.
So they're all mounted, and I got this new one. And my wife walked into my office the other day. She was like, "You don't have any space for your lightsabers. I guess you're going to have to get rid of one of them." And I'm like, "Oh no, I bought this little stand for this one." She's like, "Ah." She's like, "What about that other lightsaber?" I was like, "Oh no, it's mounted up there." She's like, "Ah, we've got so many lightsabers. I can't help it."
Yeah. We've turned our master bedroom into a Harry Potter room.
Oh, cool.
It started out as like me just collecting things like movie props stuff, and I'm not into like Daniel Radcliffe or anything. I'm into like the books and then the cinematographic, like the world building part. But it started out as we had to decorate my son's nursery, my youngest. And with my oldest, I kind of decorated something what I felt like his personality was, which it's weird how spot on it was before they're born and have a personality. But with the second one, I was like, you know what? I think I want to design this room for me because I'm going to be sitting in this room a lot. And so it was like coffee, sort of latte colored walls and gold Harry Potter stuff everywhere. And it was so soothing. But then they decided to share a room. And I'm like, what am I going to do with all these collectibles? Master bedroom. So now our bedroom is like, but then it got out of hand because now we can buy expensive ones. We don't have to worry about the kids breaking.
Yeah. So now she has like an exact replica of the Gryffindor common room as her bedroom.
Not quite.
Do you have to say a password to a picture frame before you can enter?
That would be amazing. We've always wanted a hidden room, so it's funny you say that.
Who doesn't?
Nice. Yes. I always thought it'd be fun to to put like a bookcase in front of a door.
Oh yeah.
Make it a hidden room.
We almost bought a house we hated simply because it had a hidden room.
Oh wow.
Like that. It was behind a secret bookcase and everything. Yeah.
That's cool.
But our whole house is pretty nerdy. There's geeky stuff all over my office. Our room is all Harry Pottery. We've got a room in the front that we call Toad Hall from Mr. Toad's Wild Ride, and it's full of just Mr. Toad collectibles. And then our living room is full of just animation cells that Scott's been collecting his whole life. In the basement is our theater, our movie posters. So
that's cool.
I'm decorating our house like the Haunted Mansion for Halloween. So
I did tell my husband that we needed to turn Toad Hall into the Haunted Mansion for Halloween, and he is all for it.
I'm doing a paper craft thing right now I'm building the Haunted Mansion basically with the gate and everything because I got all the Funko Pop Haunted Mansion stuff that just came out, so I'm building the mansion for them. And making a big, it's my Christmas snow village for Halloween. It's going to be the Haunted Mansion, and it was a big task that I didn't think it would be that big. And now I'm like, oh my goodness, there's so many intricate parts to cut out and shape and glue, and so it may be done by Halloween, or maybe it'll be done by Christmas. I don't know.
Next year, yeah. I bought. I just went on eBay last week and bought all the little Funko Pop Nightmare Before Christmas figures. From series 2, because my plan was to have this black dead tree and like hang them all from it for Halloween. We'll see if I get around to that, because I've had this tree for like a year and a half now, and I have all these different seasons. Like I was gonna do trolls for Valentine's Day, and I have all these different characters for all the different holidays, and I still haven't done this darn tree yet.
Well, we're an hour and a half in, so
all right.
I guess it's about that time. I'm sure you want to go to bed, and I've got to get my kid back to bed since he's up at midnight.
How old is he?
He's 4.5. He'll be 5 in November.
Wow.
Yeah, so he's just up wandering. He's just up in my office, playing in the background. I don't know why.
That's what he does.
A tornado wouldn't wake my children right now, so
yeah, he's
my son's the same way, man.
He is a tornado, so that's
Yes. Oh, he's very good.
You could turn on a light in my son's room and like you can move him, you can do anything, and he does not wake up. It's great.
Wonderful. No, Grant, he just like I'll be sitting, or like last night I was cleaning the kitchen and I hear somebody walking down the stairs and he rounds the corner, he's like, "Hey, what's going on?"
Yeah, he's ready
like,
to party.
"You want to watch a movie or eat or something?" And I'm like, "No, it's the middle of the night. We're going to bed." Oh, so anyways, so
Time to start strapping him down.
Yeah, strap him down. Heather, thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
I hope your first podcast experience was a positive one, and we didn't scare you away from podcasting.
It was good.
It was good.
It was interesting. No, I had a lot of fun.
Well, good. Well, you're welcome anytime. But thank you, and we can't wait to see. We can't wait to see. He's talking to me. Frozen 2 and what actually happens. And
Yes.
Yeah. And if you're going to be in LA, I'm also working on the Coco Hollywood Bowl show.
Oh, cool.
It's going to be in November, so that's going to be pretty fun too.
I won't be there, but I'm sure some of our listeners will be there. So if you're in LA, check out the Coco show, and you can say, "Hey, I know who did that." Maybe.
Part
Part of it. Yeah. Anyways, thank you for coming on. I hope you have a wonderful Halloween season. This is Halloween Geek.
It's my favorite season.
Mine too. I love it.
And you'll probably love it. The whole family's going to be Star Wars characters for Halloween.
Oh, so who are you going to be?
Oh, nice.
My children are insisting that I am Princess Leia.
Well, there you go.
There's so many female options to choose from.
Yeah, I mean, you've got
There's that one.
Ray and Padme.
What's the girl's name that takes over for Leia? And,
Oh yeah, it's better than Laura Dern. Like it's.
You could have been. Maz
to be fair, they haven't gotten that far in the series yet. We're only on episode. I think we're halfway through episode 5, so we're going chronologically. So that's as far as they've gotten.
At least you're not at Return of the Jedi, and they're like, "We want you to be Jabba the Hutt, Princess Leia."
No, but they did tell this summer when we were in Star Wars Land, they did insist on having Yoda ears, which we of course got them.
Yeah.
And they immediately wouldn't wear them because they were too tight for even a child's head. And so me and Scott wore them. So they go, "Dad, you should be Yoda for Halloween instead. Your ears are already hairy and you're really old." So I think Scott's going to be Yoda.
That's hilarious.
You should just go. No, I'm going to be Admiral Akbar.
That's a trap. Well, cool. Hopefully, maybe we'll see some pictures of you guys all dressed up. Your Star Wars.
Yeah, we usually theme out for Halloween, so
cool. I don't know what we're doing this year as far as costumes. I don't know.
You got very little time to decide.
No, I've got plenty. Trust me, I can make a costume in like.
Oh yeah.
Well, Chris and Jen are, making a costume for their car. So whatever you do, you're going to fail in comparison.
We don't have kids. We make costumes for our car. Yeah.
That is your kid.
That's our kid. Our Tesla. Yeah.
So here's a funny costume story. I don't know if I've told on here before. If I have, then you can just stop now. And thanks for joining us on I Am Geek. But so last year after Halloween, my wife went to Target with the kids, and she called me and she's like, they had all their costumes on like clearance. Like, I got all these costumes for like $1, $2, all this stuff. I'm like, that's great. That's cool. She's like, I got you some too. I got all Star Wars. I'm like, that's wonderful. So she brings them home and she's like, here's yours. And I'm like, that's Lando Calrissian. I'm pretty sure I can't dress up as Lando for Halloween.
Why not?
I'm pretty sure I'll get some weird looks. Like,
no, I think that would be amazing.
Your pigment.
If my kids can dress up as the Black Panther, you can be Lando.
Well, I mean, Black Panther was a mask, so.
Well, last year I made Scott. Well, I gathered and put together Scott's costume, but the kids wanted to be Wreck-It Ralph and Fix-It Felix Jr. So we had the gold hammer, and I had the outfit, and I even got an embroidery machine so I could make them their patches and stuff. And my husband, they insisted had to be King Candy, so I got him like the white tights and the foofy jacket, and I bought some gold hammer pants that I cut off into shorts, and the big fluffy collar, and it was impressive. We'll say that. There was a cop car that was patrolling the neighborhood we were trick-or-treating in, and he passed us, stopped, backed up his patrol car to roll down his window and point and laugh at Scott. It was amazing.
King Candy, oh my.
So, Chris, just since you are decorating your car as the dragon from How to Train Your Dragon, has Jenny and your wife insisted that you cut off one of your legs and go as the main character from the movie?
She has insisted, but I've noticed that she's been staring at my leg on occasion.
Just will not do.
Just looking at it.
In the spirit of full accuracy, I mean, I did tell her that you needed to go in costume with the car, and she said you guys are not doing that, and I'm
we're
sadly
not
disappointed.
I know. It's taken all of our time to do the car.
It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
She's got the blonde hair. I don't understand.
But I don't have any hair, so
it doesn't matter. You could be any Viking. Look at that beard.
Yeah.
You could be any Viking. There we go. Yeah.
Do I need to come up now and be in costume for you?
I'll be Craig Ferguson's character.
Oh, you guys! Oh, you did buy hats and a shirt. I guess that's what you're wearing.
We do. She made shirts. Are
you selling them out of your frunk or whatever you call it?
Yeah, we're gonna sell them out of the frunk. Yeah. She made shirts, and she got like hats embroidered with like the eyes on it that are really cool. You can purchase the shirts on her Etsy page, Jen Street.
Is it I Am Geek? Is it
it should be
Spreadshirt?
Spreadshirt.com/IamGeek too.
That's shop.spreadshirt.com/I Am Geek for all your I Am Geek t-shirt needs. They're plugged for the night. Anyways, thank you again. We just keep talking. I could talk all night. But thank you, man. Excellent. You've been excellent. We've loved having you on I Am Geek. And
thanks for having me.
Yeah. So this has been I Am Geek episode 120. And we'll be back with you next week.
Bye-bye.